He hadn't seen him in over a decade yet. In the thick hush of the rain and the scent of dying leaves, something ancient surged inside him. A flicker, a fracture, a pulse that didn't belong to the present. The world had buried it. The years had starved it, but it lived still in the marrow of his being, in the way his breath caught without warning, in the way his steps turned without thought, drawn by a pull deeper than memory, older than pain. It wasn't reason that moved him. It was the ache of something, lost but never gone, a connection that defied time and silence. And now as he stumbled through the wet earth with wounds, he no longer felt he knew, without knowing that something forgotten was calling back. Each morning he woke with the sun, but never greeted it. His eyes opened not with purpose but with habit, his heavy limbs unfolding slowly as if the air itself resisted him. The trees around him shifted gently in the wind, the birds called to no one in particular, and still he listened not for them, but for something else, something that never came. He drank from the same stream each day, lowered his head with the same practiced grace, and paused just a little too long, as if waiting for another muzzle beside his own. The sanctuary stretched quiet and familiar, a place of peace on the surface, but beneath its calm was a hollow rhythm, a life going through motions worn thin with repetition. He lay under the same tree. Each dusk curled the same way, always leaving a small space at his side, not consciously, not deliberately, just enough for someone who no longer filled it. The keepers said he was gentle for a lion, old, calm, resigned, but they didn't see how he stared at the northern gate long after it had rusted shut, how his ears sometimes twitched toward, the breeze like it was whispering a name he hadn't heard in years. His body carried the weight of time, but it was the silence that bent him, the silence of absence, the silence of memory. He wasn't waiting, not anymore, but something in him never stopped, listening. It happened without warning. The sky was the same shade of pale blue, the wind carried the same distant rustle, but something was wrong. He felt it before he saw it. The absence, not like a sound, but like the end of one. The space beside him was cold, the air still, and when he paced the enclosure, calling in low, uncertain grumbles. There was no answer, no familiar hoofbeat, no soft exhale. Eli was gone, not taken in front of him, not led away with comfort or care, just gone. The gate was locked, the trail erased, and no one told him why. At first he searched nose to the ground, eyes scanning every shadow, waiting for the return of a scent, the lift of ears over the grass, the quiet reassurance that nothing truly leaves if you wait long enough. But days passed and nothing came. The lion grew silent, his steps slower, his gaze heavier. He began to sleep less, not out of restlessness, but because dreams brought hope, and hope brought pain. He stopped laying by the old oak where they used to rest the soil, there too, full of memory, too loud with what once was. He stopped growling at the younger lions when they came too close, stopped lifting his head when food arrived, stopped responding when the keepers called his name inside. Something had folded inwards, not shattered, not torn, just sealed off quietly, like a door closing forever. He moved through the sanctuary, like a ghost caught in routine, not from discipline, but because forgetting how to be was worse than pretending nothing had changed. And still, every now and then, his ears would turn toward the wind, a flicker, a reflex, the last thread of a bond pulled tight across time, silent but unbroken. Let me pause here for a moment. And now I want to ask you, where are you listening from? Have you ever had someone, a person or even an animal, remember you after many years apart? That quiet moment of recognition when time disappears. If this story touches something in you, don't forget to follow. There's so much more to come, and every part of it speaks to the heart. It wasn't meant to be anything, just a scrap of paper fallen from a keeper's clipboard, a photo faded and bent at the edges, caught on the wind and pressed against the wire fence. The lion hadn't looked at it. At first, he rarely looked at anything for long, but something in the curve of that shape, The slope of those ears stopped him. His body stiffened. His breath caught. It wasn't clear, not sharp, not recent, but it was him. Eli, standing near a feeding trough head, turned toward the camera in that slightly defiant way he always had, as if daring the world to forget him. The lion pressed his nose to the fence, trembling not from cold, but from recognition. Something burst open in him. Not joy, not yet something hotter. Sharper, it ached. He could smell the dry grass in the photo, hear the soft bray. He hadn't heard in years. He stepped back, confused, afraid. What did it mean? Was it recent or old? Was he still somewhere, or just a memory being shuffled through by accident, and more terrifying than not? Knowing was the flicker of hope that rose in him, uninvited, unwelcome, and unstoppable hope, that maybe he hadn't been forgotten. Maybe someone remembered. And in that moment, a sound split the silence. A low, distant wheeze strained thin. Barely there, but unmistakable. The lion froze, ears forward. Heart thunderous, every instinct urged caution. But something older than instinct, something rooted in the soul, pulled him forward. He limped through the trees, away from the places he knew, away from safety, each step tearing at his side. But it didn't matter. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to go. Something was calling, and for the first time in years, he answered. He emerged from the trees, slow and uneven. Each step, a question. His breath labored, his eyes searching. The rain blurred his vision, but not enough to hide the shape beneath the tree. Small, hunched still, the donkey didn't move. At first, the lion stopped, his body, rigid ears, high heart slamming against ribs. It couldn't be, not, after all this time. But the curve of that, back, the tilt of that head, even now weakened by age, was burned into him. He made a low sound, not a growl, not a cry, just breath pushed through memory, and the donkey stirred just slightly, just enough to lift his head. The lion didn't blink, afraid to shatter the moment their eyes met. Not wide, not dramatic, just direct old souls locking across the impossible. Something shifted. The donkey blinked slowly, one ear twitched. The lion took a step forward, no resistance, no fear. Just gravity pulling him home. The distance between them closed and still. No sound, no roaring, no braying. The silence spoke louder than anything else. It told of nights spent alone, of days spent waiting, of lives. Paused. The lion lowered himself, beside the donkey, careful, as if laying down beside a dream, afraid it would vanish. Their bodies touched, and for the first time in years, he felt real. He felt seen. Eli exhaled a long breath, soft and full of something unspoken. He leaned in, not with urgency, but recognition, and the lion closed his eyes, pressing his forehead gently to the donkey's shoulder. The world around them dissolved. There was no sanctuary, no trees, no storm, just that warmth, that steady presence. The space that had always waited, quietly at his side, was finally full again. The next morning the air was softer. The rain had stopped, but the earth still held its weight. The lion stirred first, muscles stiff but lighter. Somehow his body still ached, but not with emptiness. Eli was still. There curled beside him, his breathing shallow but steady. And when the lion moved, the donkey's ear flicked ever so slightly, and that was enough. That tiny response said, "I see you still." The lion stood slowly, not with the grace of his youth, but with a kind of quiet pride, and nudged Eli gently behind the shoulder. Not a push, just presence. And Eli tried to rise his legs, trembled. His body leaned too far to one side, but he didn't collapse. He stayed up, swaying, and the lion stayed close, not touching, but near enough for Eli to feel the safety that had once been home. Step by step, they moved through the clearing. Not fast, not sure, but forward, and when the wind shifted, Eli lifted his nose to it, the same way he used to. The lion noticed it, and gave a quiet Sound deep in his chest, not a roar, not a growl. Just recognition later under the low branches of a wide tree. Eli reached his muzzle out, touched it to the lion's jaw. The contact, brief but full of weight. And something passed between them, a thread pulled. Tight again, the keepers watched from a distance, unsure of what they were seeing. One of them, the oldest, knelt down. Breath caught in his throat and whispered. It can't be. But it was. And in the days that followed, the two stayed together, sometimes lying. In the sun sometimes, walking in slow, lazy arcs around the edge of the enclosure. The lion no longer stared through fences. Eli no longer slept, facing away from the world. Sometimes they would stop and simply stand side by side, not doing, not needing, and in those pauses there was healing. Not dramatic, not sudden, just true small gestures, small signs. Eli's head resting on the lion's shoulder, the lion curling his tail just enough to brush against Eli's side, and each of those moments whispered louder than memory, because love doesn't vanish. It waits. It watches, it endures. And when it is found again, it doesn't ask questions. It simply says, you're here, and I never stopped knowing you. Some bonds don't break when time stretches or silence grows. They don't fade when memories blur or when the world forgets. They stay quiet, steady, tucked beneath the surface, like roots beneath winter soil, waiting for the right season to bloom again. This meeting was not loud, not triumphant. It was simple. Two lives weathered, by years, by grief, by the ache of missing learning to breathe again side by side. Not as they once were, but as they are now, softer, slower, more fragile, and somehow more whole. Because real connection doesn't vanish. It holds, it remembers. And when it returns, it doesn't ask what took so long. It simply says, I never left.